Does a lucid dream-inducing mask really work? I decided to put this to the test. But is it also possible to send a message to other people inside a dream? In this case, with two people who know how to control their dreams. That's what we're going to find out today. Hello, welcome to The Experience. My name is Douglas Flamino, and today I'll attempt to communicate with someone through a dream. But first, I'd like to kindly ask you to leave a like here. It will really help my work. I'll be very happy, and comment Pocahontas, that will make me really happy too. Whoa, my hair's all messy. Oh well, let's go like this, whatever, okay. Why did I decide to try this crazy thing? This thing that seems 110% unlikely to work, because it worked. Science has proven it. Look how amazing, two people managed to communicate through dreams. There were tests at a specialized institute for this where people were being monitored. Actually, it wasn't just two people who took the tests. These tests worked with more than one group of two people. And the test basically was for a person to be able to send a code to another while they were sleeping, and for the other person to receive that code. Suppose two little people are sleeping here. One says Pachoka and then the other. Just a few minutes later, they would receive the code Pachoka. And there were, if I'm not mistaken, electrodes in her brain that would record when the person sent the code and when the other received it. And then there was a confirmation. I was shocked by this information. And you know when there's something in science that's already proven but you refuse to believe it? That was one of those cases. If the test was done like this, it was done 1.2 million times. And one person said Pachoka and the other received Pasoka. It could have been a coincidence. Very big, but there's a chance that at some point that person thought of Pachoka, just like this person thought of Pasoka, and a coincidence happened. Even so, the chance is very low. So after seeing that, I kept thinking, well, if one person managed to do it, it means it's possible, so I can do it too, and then that's good, right? Why not try this out and report it in a video? What if it works? Will I be the first Brazilian to communicate with someone through a dream? I think humanity still doesn't truly have the ability to measure the power of the brain, and maybe we can't even imagine what possibilities the brain can offer us. The brain is like the ocean. It's been studied a lot, but little has been discovered. And for this experiment, right from the start, I already have an extremely difficult task. To find another person who is proficient and used to lucid dreams, but I have that person. He recently appeared here on the channel, actually. It's Tiago, a friend I've had for a long time. But it took us a while to get into the topic of lucid dreaming, and for me to find out that he also studied it deeply and put it into practice. I suggested to him, should we try communicating in a dream? He agreed and said, sure, let's do it. There's no downside or contraindication. At worst, you might have a vivid nightmare.
I've practiced lucid dreaming for 20 years. I remember I saw a video by Tim Ferriss where he was talking about lucid dreaming. When he said that, I thought, lucid dreaming? Then I remembered when I was 10 or 12 years old, I used to watch Dragon Ball and Goku would fly. I used to have those dreams. I'm going to start. And then I started researching. I found a guy named Tim Post, who's from the Netherlands, and he had a website called Lucidpedia. Then I started studying and started practicing.
Then Tiago decided to experiment with me. So we decided to have a code to send to each other, which was a mental code and a word. So if one didn't work, the other would. During this period, we also tried to test a tool for lucid dreams, which was a mask, like those sleep masks that cover your eyes, but it has signals that help induce lucid dreaming. Don't worry, I'm not selling this mask or advertising anything. I won't recommend any brand. But I'll explain how this mask works, and it's insanely cool. It works, and basically it's a mask that works with little lights. You have there the mask to cover your eyes when you sleep, with the elastic band around your head and everything. But besides being a sleeping mask, it has some red light signals that will activate after a specific period. Since there is already a pattern regarding dreams, about the time when you enter a brain state that is more likely to have a lucid dream. This mask turns on after a few hours of sleep to give you stimuli during your dream. Look how amazing. It turns on some little blinking red lights. And this can show up in your dream, or it can give you a slight wake up. And when you're slightly awake in the middle of the night, that's the best time to have dreams. Not just slightly awake, but close to waking up, let's put it that way. In fact, that's why when you wake up in the middle of the night, it's very common for your dreams to be very vivid in your memory. It's the best time to write them down, at least in my opinion, but it's such a hassle to wake up and get out of your comfy bed in the middle of the night just to write down a dream. Man, what a person with nothing better to do, right? Aren't you missing a job where you have to clock in at 7 in the morning for God's sake, right? What a privilege I have in my life to be able to do this. Well, the most negative side of this little mask is that it costs 200 Rs. There are even more expensive ones, but this one already does the job. There's one that even comes with a kind of headphone, so we decided to use this mask. And if it didn't work, that's okay, right? At least it's another test in the video, trying a dream induction mask. Pretty cool and unique. And if it didn't work, we already know how to induce our own dreams without the help of a mask. Obviously, it's not just the mask that can be used as a tool. If you want to dream about something you want, there's also dream induction. In several videos I've made here on the channel, I mention how to do dream induction, which is basically you focusing on what you want to dream about, especially before sleep, can help. For example, I want to dream about hugging Mickey. During the day, you keep consuming Disney stories, looking at pictures of Mickey. Then before going to sleep, you watch a Mickey cartoon, and that will make it much easier for Mickey to show up in your dream. So this is called dream induction. It's a very powerful tool. And I really like using ChatGPT because I can create images in ChatGPT exactly the way I want them in the dream. So if I want to dream about something really specific and I'm having a bit of trouble finding content or images about it, I can create those images in ChatGPT. But you can use YouTube, that's up to each person. Another great tool is to sleep wearing extremely comfortable clothes. Finally, Tiago and I began the experiment. Our techniques for remembering the dream or for staying more lucid in the dream aren't exactly the same. He has his methods, I have my methods.
I just use a simple notebook for my notes. I leave this little light here for when I wake up in the middle of the night, and I leave 2 pens, right? If one fails, I have the other. An example of what I do, which I've been doing a lot more now after meeting Flamino, is that I'm taking it much more seriously. I write down the date here and I put SL here, right? When it's a lucid dream, and now I'm usually writing down the time I became lucid. For me, it happens a lot in the morning. And I write down the place. And I also write down the trigger when I can remember it. For example, the trigger here was that I lost my cell phone, then I got really desperate. That was what triggered it for me. Am I dreaming? How do I write it down? It's a lot. So I try to just write down key points, what happened. When it's something really important, then I try to add more details.
Our techniques for remembering in the dream or for staying more lucid in the dream aren't exactly the same. He has his methods, I have my methods. Some are unusual, for example. Looking at your hands is almost universal. Whenever you look at your hands in a dream, you end up realizing that it's a dream. It really depends on the person. You have to figure out which reality checks are most effective for you. I could make a video just about reality checks that work. I'm even thinking about making a course on lucid dreaming. Wow, there's a lot to discuss. Plus, I can make a 30-day course video to sell, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. That will happen someday, alright? So let's go, let's read now. Let's talk about how my dreams were and my little Captain America dream notebook. And I can already tell you in advance that there was even a scary result. Very cool. Birthday at my cousin's house. Basically, I realized it was a dream because I looked at the window and the sky was really red. At that moment, I asked myself, am I dreaming? And at that moment, we also realized that there are a lot of things that don't make any sense at all. In the dream, for example, my cousins didn't look like my real-life cousins. I said, hey, this is a dream, my cousins are glitched. Well, as soon as I realized it was a dream, I started flying over the city and released the message, and it became real in the sky. The message I was trying to send to Tiago was tree. The message I thought of and the message in words was popcorn. At the same moment, I flew out the window and thought about sending the message. A popcorn tree appeared in front of me. There were two messages, right? In my dream, they merged into one, which I thought was really cool. I noted here that I started to lose consciousness right after sending the message. That was my way of sending the message, but I tried to spin. When we try to spin in a dream, it usually keeps us inside the dream for a longer time. Because you can feel a sensation of, I think I'm going to wake up. It's hard to explain, only those who truly control their dreams will get it. I didn't get any messages from Tiago. I got in touch with Tiago, and he didn't get any messages from me either. First test in vain. On the second day riding the train, I did the hand test. Before that, I had already noticed the different walls and that the dream had been changed several times. So I had already had some dreams before and had already experienced some unusual things, but I only realized it was a dream when I looked at my hand. So this happens a lot in dreams, where you're in an extremely random and unusual situation, but you believe it's real. You don't question yourself like, wow, this is kind of weird. You have to do a reality check to come to the conclusion that you're dreaming. My vision was blurry and reddish. Look how interesting. On the very second day, I already had a reaction to the mask. On the second day, I was already sleeping. I was already sleeping with the mask, and my vision was blurry and reddish. Probably because of the little red lights that keep blinking. I thought it was really cool. I only realized this after I woke up. So the mask works, and it worked a few more times after that. You'll see here, while I was still on the train, I shouted the message before the dream ended. I was already having that feeling of the dream starting to fade away. Most of my dream occurred in those other random dreams before I did the reality check. And I shouted the message out of the train. That was my desperate way of trying to get the message across before waking up. Let's go. Day 3. This one was really cool. I was running from the police. Wow, escape dreams are so unpleasant. They make you feel so anxious. I remember seeing the bright light from the wall of the police car, which was a minibus. Here's an interesting detail. The car's light was red, also a reflection from the mask. The mask was making my dreams look reddish. The police officer was kind of like a monkey and she was my test. I realized it there and killed her with a laser from my finger. Ha 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 ha. It was really good. That's pretty sadistic, isn't it? I ran at about 300 kilometers per hour looking for a tree and shouted popcorn in front of her. At that moment, I knew that whoever passed in front of the tree would hear my shout. I even wrote it down here. It makes no sense. So in my head, the tree was there and I shouted popcorn in front of it. In my mind, whoever passed by there near the tree would hear the shout popcorn. I tried to fly off the planet, but I woke up halfway. I love trying to fly out of the planet when I'm in a lucid dream. But I was already almost waking up and there wasn't enough time, but the message was left. I didn't get a message from Tiago, so the next day I asked him if he got any response. He hadn't had a lucid dream, so it gets complicated, right? Let's go. Day 4. Experiencing many abstract things made me lucid. That situation where it feels like you're in a Van Gogh painting. Eventually you question one thing out of a million strange things. And then if you have the habit of doing reality checks while you're awake, you keep that habit in your dreams. I got away from everything because I believed they were the ones who would make me wake up. So, those abstract images I was seeing in my head in the dream, it made sense that I had to stay away from them because they would take away my lucidity. Look at that, right? It makes no sense. I remembered Tiago telling me to be Spider-Man. Tiago and I had that conversation. I told him that I really like flying in my dreams. And then he said, man, have you ever tried shooting webs like this and swinging around the city, flying through the city like Spider-Man? I said no. He said, it's way cooler than flying because you get that butterflies in your stomach feeling. Then I remembered talking to Tiago and thought, I'll try that now. I was already in the city, right? I tried and fell several times. It felt really real and the web was really long. My skin turned into a red Spider-Man suit. I felt itchy, so I started to take off my skin. But before I could, I woke up. I had 3 more dreams, but I didn't want to write them down. Laziness. I was really honest in this part here, but I remember those dreams were also very, very surreal. I have a lot of surreal dreams, like worlds created by Van Gogh, with things melting, things with unusual sizes. I often dream about stairs in places that make no sense. like a staircase in the middle of somewhere, leading to nowhere, to a door that's up on the ceiling. So, I have a lot of dreams with totally surreal situations. It's pretty cool but kinda useless, but look how funny it is. In this dream, I remembered Tiago. I remembered what he told me about trying to make Spider-Man webs, but I didn't remember to give the signal to Tiago. That's rough, right? Day 5. I was in a city that seemed to be Japanese, right? Because I saw kanji, test, a light flying really fast in the middle of the city. I saw it like it was a giant firefly and it left a trail of light. And that was very unusual, and I questioned reality at that moment looking at this light that was wandering around the park. I made the green container square appear. We decided to meet in a green box. Container was what my dream made appear. Our purpose was to enter some green box and send the signal inside this green box and try to receive each other's signal, right? So that was the unusual place we decided to use. There were a lot of neon lights inside. I thought of a tree and suddenly a bonsai appeared. Bonsai is that little Japanese tree. When I thought of it, it grew like this on the ground. I made a piece of chalk appear and wrote popcorn on the wall. Those were my two messages, the little tree and the popcorn. If Tiago at some point entered another green box in one of his dreams and this showed up, he could tell me, right? Or something like that, I don't know. From that moment on, I think I started to lose a bit of lucidity because I started acting in a kind of senseless way. I went out and built a fence to protect the container. Why, right? I left a key to open the fence padlock, burying it in front of the door. Day 6, whoa. I'm not gonna mention this one, no. I didn't write the other dream here. I put it on my phone since I didn't have my notebook and wasn't at home. And it was a really good dream, really good. It was so good that I didn't want to change it. I remember this dream clearly. I was very lucid, having total control over the situation. I also became lucid in the dream by looking at my hands. And I dreamed that I was with my parents. We rented a wooden house in the middle of the sea for a family trip with my parents and siblings. And in that dream, right after doing the reality check, looking at my hands, I realized that my siblings were still kids and I was a kid too. I was in my child's body. So it's like I dreamed in a past time that I traveled with my family, with my parents and my siblings. And my mom was cooking, making lunch, and I was helping my mom in the kitchen. But in that dream, I didn't want to change anything because I don't know when that's going to happen again. And I found that situation so pleasant, that little house so comfortable. I didn't try to send a message to Tiago, I didn't try anything. I'm here with Tiago. We're here with our little dream notebooks and we couldn't resist. We just talked right now about what our code would be to meet in the dream. We were shocked by something that happened here. It even gave him goosebumps. He began with a different message, right? Did you mention a dragon?
4 times it was different.
4 times it was different.
Yesterday it changed.
Yes, there was a change in the message. But even so, I hadn't received any message related to a dragon, and up until then, he also hadn't received any message related to what I tried to send. We initially just tried to send the code, right? So I realized I was lucid in the dream, and I would say, okay, I'm going to think about the tree, and then I would shout popcorn, or I would write popcorn. And then a friend of mine suggested that we try to find an unusual place in the dream to send a message in that location. I said, that's a great idea, right? Because if we're here in real life, for me to send a message to Tiago, if I'm in the same place, it makes it easier.
It's a lot of suggestion. Because the moment I became lucid, like out of nowhere, it just came to me. Message. He said green container, and I said I thought of blue. It was immediate. I didn't have time to think.
And I thought it was brilliant, right?
Actually, his second message was blue. Maybe you were so focused on getting the message across that you understood the place was blue too, right?
I stopped, got clear-headed, said the message, then he said green container. So I was like, okay, green, cool, but I'll do it in blue. I need to look for a blue box. Then when I looked around my environment, the houses started turning blue again. Then I just took off and started flying. Why did I start flying? I wanted to find a blue place inside, right? So I kept looking and looking, and then I found it. I went like this. It was a gym, right? Half of it was all blue from the middle up. I said, no, this has to work. So I focused, concentrated, thought about you, visualized you, shouted Flamino. Then I sent the blue message, and then I visualized the pineal gland, right?
Uh-huh.
Pineal transfer, got it?
I couldn't get the dragon coat or the blue one at any point. But one thing happened in common in our dreams, and it was really bizarre. Tiago was telling me about his dream today. Tell us how it was.
Yeah, it was interesting, right? We were skating with Andressa, and I made the connection, right? I always linked Flamino and Andressa, and then Andressa took... It was me, Anna, Andressa, and I was talking about lucid dreaming. Then she was talking about dreams. She said she has a problem, which is she doesn't really feel like practicing lucid dreaming because every dream is bad, right? Like nightmares and stuff. So I was there, all serious, trying to come up with a formula to make it work. Then Anna gave some tips and I said, tell me usually in this bad dream, what shows up in the dream? She didn't even think about it. She just said, train.
Look how bizarre that is. What are the chances, of me being on the train in my dream on the second day, saying the message, and she just tells you the word train?
And that's really interesting because we're focusing on a specific word, right?
But who can guarantee that this isn't connected to something about transmission and that several things are being transmitted, right? And we pick it up.
Yeah, right. In short, Tiago and I couldn't get the message across to each other, but there was this almost message, right? About the train situation. But it wasn't exactly the way we wanted to get the message across, right? So, I don't consider that experience a success. And if you want a specific dream or a specific experience related to dreams, leave your suggestion here in the video. I always take it into consideration. Well, that's it. Until the next experience. Am I dreaming? No, I'm not. That would make me so mad. I recorded a huge video here with ads and everything, and then I go there, wake up, and nothing is recorded. What I consider a nightmare is dreaming that I'm at school, and then at school, what would happen? In my classroom, there was an assignment to do. The teacher called each student alphabetically, and until my name came up, I kept wondering what I would say. I just didn't do it out of laziness. What am I going to say? When I realize I'm lucid, at that moment, I start causing chaos in the school. Like with a chainsaw or setting people on fire, really violent things like that. Seriously, did someone really turn on some kind of little engine over there just while I'm recording? That's messed up, right? Can you guys hear it? I don't know if it's a mixer or a hairdryer. In either case, I'd kind of like that person's appliance to burn out.
Ever dreamed you did everything just like this? Lucid, prepared, and ready? Mine was about school. I'd get ready to go to school, everything was set, I'd leave, then I'd wake up and realize I was late and had to do everything all over again. Wow. Whenever someone talks, it's like, wow, some people are really annoying in my dream. Even after I become lucid, I can't control it and they just keep going. Sometimes I go like this and the person is talking and I say, are you still talking, man? And now I keep trying, like Spider-Man, when he shoots the thing to make the person shut up and it goes on their mouth. In my dream, it doesn't work. I keep shooting it and just a little string goes to their mouth. And the person keeps talking, man.
So annoying.
It's so random.